The Nigeria Tax Act, NTA 2025, represents a major turning point in the legal framework of taxation in Nigeria. Notwithstanding the envisaged challenges associated with its transition and implementation, the Act is widely seen by scholars and professionals as a potentially transformative tool for creating a more equitable, efficient, and predictable tax environment. A key advantage of the Act is the legal consolidation it achieves by repealing 11 existing statutes and amending 13 others. The Nigeria Tax Act eliminates long-standing contradictions and procedural ambiguities across tax laws, thus creating a single coherent legal document that simplifies tax interpretation and compliance. This streamlining is expected to significantly reduce administrative burdens on both taxpayers and tax administrators. Furthermore, the Act is seen as a critical mechanism for enhancing equity in Nigeria's tax system. The progressive personal income tax regime introduced in the Act shields low-income earners from tax liabilities by exempting incomes up to 800,000 naira annually, while higher earners are taxed on a graduated scale. This structure aligns with global best practices and ensures that the tax burden is more equitably distributed across income classes. Similarly, the exemption of companies with annual turnover below 100 million naira from companies' income tax is likely to encourage the growth and formalization of micro and small businesses that previously operated in the informal sector due to tax compliance fears. Tonight, on Tuesday Live, we shall be looking at tax filing prospects and constraints with those who should know. At the appropriate time, I shall introduce them. I am Omini Odan. Thanks for joining us. Before we get to meet our guests, let's get to see this background report put together by our correspondent, Benny Adams.
For years, the civil service followed a simple rhythm: work, get paid, and let the Integrated Personnel and Payroll Information System, IPIS, handle the tax. But this year, the rhythm has been disrupted.
Our aim is to ensure consistency, prevent arbitrary assessments, best of judgment, and to protect small businesses while ensuring the continuous growth of the Nigerian economy.
The National Tax Policy Implementation Committee will continue to work closely with tax authorities to ensure disciplined rollout, operational consistency, and safeguards against arbitrary assessment.
The new tax laws now demand a self-assessment. It is a move the government says is designed to foster a culture of accountability. No longer can a taxpayer remain a passive observer of their own finances. Whether you are a teacher in Korana Moda or a director in Lagos Ministry, the law now looks directly at you to declare your earnings by March 31st.
He's required by law to do a self-assessment of himself, which means at the end of the 12th calendar month, he aggregates all his income and then find out what will be my tax liability based on the tax rates that are available, the bands from 0 to about 25 thereabout at the moment, and then determine what is the tax liability and file it accordingly.
Our focus for now is how to support taxpayers on how best to comply and how easily they can comply. And that's why we have accredited so many service providers that will be there for the taxpayers when they're having these challenges.
The process has moved from dusty files to digital portals. The mandate is clear: link your NIN, log in, and close the loop. Those who miss the window face more than just fines. They face a lockout from essential services that require a valid tax clearance certificate.
Irrespective of whether you work in the formal or informal sector, that extra income that comes in for you, you are expected to actually file the necessary return of that particular income.
So when you owe tax, liability for a long time, you owe government for a long time, and the penalty is the punishment, the consequence is penalty and interest. And the interest most of the time is in line with the Central Bank of Nigeria, monetary policy rate. What happens is that the interest will be accumulating and accumulating and accumulating, and it could get to a point where the penalty and interest could be more than the principal tax you are owing.
Tonight, we ask, is Nigeria ready for this digital tax revolution? Are the portals robust enough for millions of last-minute filers? And most importantly, does the Nigerian taxpayer see the value of the contribution in the infrastructure around them? In the studio to discuss the how and why of this March 31st deadline is a panel of tax experts, and we will be taking your calls and social media comments throughout the hour.
Thank you, Benny Adams. Tax filing in Nigeria, prospects and concerns is the focus of the program tonight, if you are just joining us. It's time to know our guest tonight. Let me begin with, from my immediate left, Honorable Patrick Omor. Honorable Patrick Omor is the member representing Ikodekbene Esenudim, Oburakada Federal Constituency of Akwa Ibom State, and House Committee Chairman, member House Committee on Finance of the House of Representatives, and he's also Chairman, House Committee on Health Institutions. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
From my far left, right down there, we have the Acting Executive Chairman, Federal Capital Territory Internal Revenue Service. He was former member of the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee, and now a member of the National Tax Policy Implementation Committee, Michael Ango. Good to have you on the program.
Good to be here.
Also tonight, like the reporter said, for those who should know, we have the head, Fiscal and Tax Implementation, Nigeria Revenue Service, and he's also the special advisor to the Executive Chairman, NRS, Dr. Olufemi Olarinde. Good to have you on the program.
Thank you. Good to be here, sir.
Tonight, we have a financial expert with us, Dr. Emmanuel Basi Osman.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
And joining us tonight via Zoom, we have the President and Chairman of Council for the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. He joins us via Zoom, Innocent Chinyere Ohagwa. Apparently, his signal is not up. As soon as it's up, we'll bring you up to speed where he's coming from. And he will, okay, he's right there. Good to see you, Innocent Chinyere Ohagwa.
Good evening, all. Good evening.
Thank you so much.
My colleagues, and thank you for inviting me.
Okay. Gentlemen, we'll begin. But before we begin, let me quickly conscientize our viewers. It's Tuesday Live. At some point, our phone lines will be displayed on the screen. Please, if we're true to you, go straight to the point. Don't rigmarole. Raise your concerns, ask your questions, and the team of our guests here in Abuja and via Zoom will respond to you as appropriate. And please, in doing this, turn down the volume of your device to avoid the echo. Let's take an extract before we begin our discussion from one of the episodes of Tuesday Live broadcast on the 9th of December 2025, which featured the former chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, Professor Taiwo Oyedele.
That's all. You will start by taking out what we call statutory deduction. In other words, inside the tax law, it says you are eligible to claim some deduction so you don't pay tax on all your income. I will make a list of them. Number one is pension contribution. If you contribute to pension, government allows you to take it out of your salary even before you start talking about tax. Number two, National Housing Fund. Number three, National Health Insurance Scheme. Number four, if you are the person who pays premium on your life and the life of your spouse, you're also allowed to take that out. In addition to what we call mortgage interest, if you take a loan to be able to build your house, all these 5 deductions you take out of your income first and foremost. Number two, you're allowed to take what we call a rent relief. That rent relief can be up to 500,000 naira in a year per individual. When you finish taking out all these things I've listed, the balance you have of your income is called taxable.
That was the extract from one of the President Tuesday Live where he dwelled exhaustively on tax filing. And because of the jigsaw in and out discordant discussions across the country over the issue of tax filing. Some people are saying, if I'm a worker, I will file. If you're a company, you will file. That's why this team of experts are here tonight. So take a rapt attention and listen to the program. We are going to look at the prospects, the concerns, and indeed the way forward. Let me give the first shot to the special advisor to the executive chairman of NRS. What are really the benefits of tax filing for individuals and business concerns? Let's start with you.
Okay, thank you for having me on this call, and I'm happy to be here. It's a time to tell Nigerians what their obligations are. And when you talk about the benefit, first thing is that for everyone, we need to be law-abiding. So we need to start from the foundation. Our Constitution, which is our grand norm, which is the law guiding everyone, provides in Section 24 that everyone must declare their income truthfully to the relevant agency of government and pay their taxes. And so that is first the mandate for every Nigerian. So for every Nigerian who makes an income, we are expected to declare, first declare. So the important thing is not just paying the tax. The first thing is to declare, and that declaration is what a return is. So in declaration, you declare that, oh, I have made certain income and pay your taxes. So you're fulfilling the provisions of the law. So that is a tax in itself is law. So you're fulfilling the provision of the law, saying that you must declare, and that is what tax returns is. And when you declare, that you bring government or tax authority up to speed about the performance of your business or your individual income. And so the benefit is to ensure that you can also get, after declaring your income and you pay your tax, what you have simply done is to fulfill that obligation, and government in its turn also have to fulfill its own aspect of providing the social amenities and infrastructure. So that is what the biggest benefit for filing your tax returns.
So when you say, let's get this clear because people are watching us.
Okay.
When you say tax filing and tax returns, is there any difference?
Okay, so it's filing of tax returns.
Okay.
So returns is the documents that comes with. So filing of tax returns. Returns is what are your affairs, your business affairs, your personal affairs, those documentation, your accounting, that's what we call returns.
Okay.
So you file them to show your affairs. So that is what it's called.
We'll come
so
to
it's
the
a
other
statement,
intricacies
filing
of it
tax
when you
returns.
talk about if I'm filing, am I transparent, am I honest? We'll come to that.
Okay.
Let me go to Mike Ango. It's a countdown to the formal takeoff of the new tax regime in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And given the mainstreaming, the streamlining, all the value chain is more or less fused into one now. So would you say, speaking maybe for other states of the Federation, is FCTRS ready for this takeoff? Are the people conscientized?
Thank you very much. The simple answer to your question is that the FCTRS, and I believe all the other 36 state internal revenue services, are more than ready. This provision in the law is not a new one. It's been there in the Personal Income Tax Act, which was repealed by the Nigerian Tax Act. The provision essentially has always been in the law that for persons, whether in employment, whether business owners, political office holders, political appointees, elected officials, members of the House of Reps, senators, commissioners, your humble self, we're all required, including myself, to file a return of our income for the preceding year within 90 days of the start of the new year. So the tax authorities have been implementing this aspect of the law. What has simply happened is that the new tax regime has ensured
that this provision of the law has been given prominence, and the consequences of non-compliance have also been clearly spelled out in the law. But just like my colleague said, Femi, the most important thing for Nigerians to know, and I think this is what we should be emphasizing at this forum today, is that tax filing, tax returns, payment of taxes is a constitutional obligation. Section 24 of the Constitution mandates every Nigerian to declare their income, of course, if you earn income. Truthfully, the word the Constitution uses is, I think, is it truthfully or, you know. So the whole essence, just like he said, is that when you file your returns, it then gives you that moral standing. In fact, not moral, it gives you that constitutional backing as a citizen to then say to the government, I want electricity, I want security, I want education for my children, I want healthcare. I want to be able to enter a BRT or a bus from Gwagwalada to Federal Secretariat. So I think that is really the thing. It's a social contract. For those of us who are students of constitutional law, we know the theory of the social contract, John Locke, etc. So these things have been there. Nigeria is not, it's not something novel. Every country, especially in the developed world, or if you like the developing world, has similar provisions. So for us as Nigerians, it is also a means by which we can partake in governance. If I pay my taxes, if I vote, it means that as a citizen, I am part of my government. I can then walk up to the Honorable and say, Honorable, I have not seen the road to my house. What is happening?
Okay, please, just for emphasis, between the worker and the businessman.
Yes.
Let me use myself as an example. I work. Am I expected to do tax filing?
Yes, sir. So the only difference between the employee and the self-employed or the business owner is that for the employee, he's subject to a dual tax regime.
Yeah.
In the sense that you have what we call the pay-as-you-earn, framework, where your employer, the federal government, NTA, whoever it is, deducts your salaries from your salary, your personal income tax over the period of the last 12 months within 2025, and pays that to the State Internal Revenue Service where you reside. At the end of the year, you may have some other businesses. You may have a house that was left to you by your dad or your granddad. You may have some shares on the stock exchange. You know, you may have done some business on the side, which is allowed by the federal government, maybe farming. You have done rice or maize. You have 500 bags, and you have sold them off. That income also has to be reported because it is part of your income. However, it is not being taxed because it was not part of the income that you earned as an employee. So for the employee, at the end of the year, he consolidates his salaries, allowances, and other income if available. For the business owner, on the other hand, his obligation is one, which is that at the end of the year, he collates everything that he has earned from January to December. If he has 6 businesses as a businessman, let's assume, he has one business, whatever, he sells phones, he sells tires, he sells pure water, he has a farm. He will aggregate his income from all these sources, including if he has any dividends, any investments, and all of that. And then he will calculate it. There's a template in the tax law, the deductions you're entitled to, the statutory deductions, etc. Then you say, this is what I've earned, this is what is taxable, and then this is the tax. You run it through the tax table, and then you file by the 31st of March. So that's the simple explanation to it. I don't know if I've clarified that.
Please, Honorable, just give me a few seconds. And Doctor, I understand where we are heading. I'll come to the two of you. Because if you're out there on the streets, there's this missing link, and they're already establishing it. Let me come back to you. He has taken me very close to it, and I believe so many other Nigerians listening to us are also getting this cue. Because if you follow the narrative on the streets, because we're talking about street now, if the lowest man understands this, then your job is made a lot easier. He simply said that tax filing involves the businessman and the worker. And he has opened up a bit. Now, by procedure, by protocol, if I'm a government worker, and so many other government workers at the federal and state level, my pay tax is processed at the point of where my salary runs, right?
Yes.
And returns are made. Now, if I'm privileged, I'm coming from a privileged home, I have houses, all that, how would you know if I don't declare it? And in case I don't declare it and it's not registered with you, how will you capture it and how will you know?
Okay.
And at what point should the worker know that I'm supposed to go declare this tax outside my salary to either FCT, IRS, or NRS? Let's get this clear.
Okay.
Let's break it down.
You know, I started with saying tax is law.
Yes.
And so, and I'll take you back to the Constitution again, Section 24 that I spoke about. What the Constitution said that every citizen must declare their income. I think it uses honestly or truthfully and pay their taxes. So declaration, that aspect of declaration is now put on you as a citizen,
yes,
as a taxpayer, that you must declare. So we all practice what we call the voluntary tax compliance system in Nigeria. Further to that, we have what we call the self-assessment regime. It's started by telling you, you yourself must declare. So at the end of the year, if you are an employee of government, whether or employee of any other person, what your employer has done for you, it's a form of withholding, taking part of your salary and paying. So this is what we call the payee scheme, pay as you earn. So what government says is that, okay, because according to withholding tax regime, when payment is made, a portion of that payment is deducted and paid over as payment of tax in advance. So your income is taxable annually. However, under the payee scheme, they deduct a part of your income that is calculated over the year. For 1 year annual tax, they prorate it on a monthly basis and take that part on. Now, that does not mean your obligation is concluded. Now, the law now says that you yourself, because you are the one that have the obligation to file and pay. So you have to also say, okay, declare that I have made other income. We have what they call side hustle. So whatever income you have made, you yourself will declare. So you don't need a tax man to go after you. The question you ask me is that how will the tax man know? Good. Now, we now want to go to where you have failed to declare it. The tax man will now find all means to look for it. So there are means. I will start first with intelligence. So intelligence, he may hear your name somewhere in a business transaction, it is part of it. He may look at you, or there's something called lifestyle audits. You are looking very millionaire or billionaire, and I know from what you have declared as your income, or that tax have been paid on, it's not commensurate with the way you look. You can probe further, audit or even investigate. Then also, he can ask you to also declare, to submit probably your bank statement for further auditing. So these are ways the taxman, so what they do can raise what they call the best of judgment assessment on you. If the taxman feels through all relevant information available to him, which the taxman will tell you later, from the information available to me, then you will now have to say, no, I don't have this kind of money. But he will show you all the information he has. So that's what the taxman will do. So when you ask that, how will the taxman know? The taxman too will search for it. And once he have any inclination of any income from you, he can now charge you what they call the best of judgment. Okay. So, and you know you have already erred in law because you did not declare. You did not declare. So there are also sanctions.
Can I just interject before I come to Honorable?
Okay, go ahead, please.
I am privileged to have a brother, let's say Honorable Umar.
Okay.
I go to visit him here. He's in the House of Reps.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm about leaving, and he tells me, Mr. Den, it's a long time I saw you. Let me have your account detail. And he sends me a 50,000 naira.
Okay.
And I say, thank you. Should I make returns on that?
So that is a gift, right? That's a gift. So our tax law, we tax income. We tax income.
That's an income.
See, we tax income, and yes, you will declare it and say, oh, this is a gift. I receive it for this. So we are looking for your commercial income. Income you earn from providing services, from employment income, and all those things.
But where you don't have all these,
where you don't have, no, it's not taxable. A gift will not be taxed.
But this is
but you must declare.
This is getting interesting.
Declaration is absolute.
Okay. Doctor, I'll come to you. Now, Honorable, you are the member House of Reps Committee on Finance.
Absolutely.
And all this, you were part of the process, listening to SA and listening to Chairman FCT IRS. Let me hear from you.
Well, first
I don't need to ask you a question now, but listening to them.
Well, first and foremost, the business of Parliament is to make the laws and allow for the executive to implement the laws. And the next obligation we have as parliamentarians is to oversight the tax agencies, that's the MDAs involved directly with the tax regime. I've listened to the conversations. I have also made some of the observations from their position, the position of the tax masters or the persons who will be implementing the tax laws. I also do know that as regards the personal income tax, where your income is under 800,000, you should be exempted from payment of tax. And I also know that for VAT, it remains at 7.5%, but with the real timing invoicing, where at real time, the Nigerian Revenue Service gets to know that VAT is paid on specific products, excepting food, maybe education and health. So our job, our business clearly as Parliament is to ensure that the tax regime is seamlessly implemented in accordance with the law that we've passed. The four sets of laws that we passed, that's the Nigeria Tax Administration Act, the Nigeria Revenue Service Act, the Joint Revenue Board of Nigeria Act, and then the Nigeria Tax Act. Then we also are, as Parliament, we are interested in compliance. You know, apart from the aspect of the regulators, those making the assessments, we are also open to complaints from Nigerians by way of maybe petitions. So we entertain them to ensure that the regime is seamlessly implemented. That's it. That's for parliamentarians.
Okay. Let's go to Dr. Emmanuel Bassi Usman before I go to our guest who is joining us via Zoom in Lagos. Now, I'm into the business class now. You're a businessman. You file your tax. How is this working for you?
Well, thank you so much. Let me just appreciate also.
Understanding that it's a countdown to the formal takeoff of the new tax regime in the country.
Yes, as I said, for us where I work and what I do as a consultant and also in real estate, it's not been an issue because even before the law, we've been highly compliant. Let me say this because one of the advantages of this new tax act is that it helps people to keep track of records, have records. Very important. Because, for example, you as an individual, sometimes you get money you don't give account for. But now if you know that at the end of the year, the tax authorities will be coming and asking you questions, it will put you on inquiry and put you and say, oh, I need to keep proper record. So it helps, and it's going to help not just small business, I mean big businesses, but small businesses, and even also as individuals. So there are a lot of benefits because the act spelled clearly what is taxable and what is not taxable. Now it gives you an avenue also to leverage on some of those advantages that can help you to be able to access some certain privileges or some certain some certain things that maybe can help your business grow. And as I said earlier, there are some things, for example, in Nigeria today, if you don't have a tax clearance, you can't even access them. So it's also very important. And then also it's just like, because we're in this part of a country that majority of people, maybe in the past, because I believe maybe this is game changer for the whole country, people are really not conscious. If you're not working in a formal sector, you're not working with government, payment of tax become a challenge. My friend know maybe during what you call it, election,
Campaigns.
and they will campaign. They will not tell you before you buy a form. You see people doing 4 or 5 years payment so that they will not be found wanting. And most of the times they are not accurately calculated. They are not accurately presented. So they just do to fulfill all righteousness. Now, I loved what the FCT IRS has done, because the first thing when we came in January, we've been updated by our tax consultant in the organization, and then the portal that was created. When we did the January, I go there, you just logged on, you see what has been remitted already. So there's no hiding. I was wondering whether we can even update the other previous years, because it gives you an avenue to even print your tax clearance yourself without not necessarily have to go to the tax authorities to do that. And as I can say, not just because also that you have to be a responsible citizen by paying the tax, but also without tax, government cannot run.
Sure.
So it's one of the major revenue source. And then I think you should be proud enough to say, I'm law abiding, I'm contributing my quota. Then I have that boldness to ask Honorable, why is light not in my community?
Okay, thank you so much. Let's go to Lagos to hear the perspective of Innocent Chinyere Ohagwa. Innocent, I believe you're following the discussion over here. Let's get your perspective regarding the new twist to what it is filing tax in Nigeria.
Thank you very much, and I'm very, very grateful to be here, and I greet all the wonderful panelists you have. You see, from Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, our focus is advocacy, knowing that we need to ensure that all citizens, companies, whether incorporated here or not based here but deriving income, they have obligations to fulfill. And this obligation, like various speakers have said, they are constitutional. And when you follow the Constitution and do it seamlessly, the advantages are numerous. It makes you to be a key stakeholder, and it also makes you to appreciate what government is doing. Now, returns are statutory requirements, and returns and payment are two concurrent obligations. At times, you may not be liable to pay tax, but you are liable to file returns. Number two, there are cases whereby you are both liable to file returns and liable to pay. And when it is done concurrently, you are talking about self-assessment. Before now getting to this stage, Nigeria had to operate what we call government assessment, whereby you need to wait till revenue authority to serve you notice before you pay. But this system became archaic, ineffective, and is not competitive. So from 1992, the changes have been there to make filing of returns voluntary and compulsory. Because when you determine what you are supposed to pay. Like myself is talking to you now. I filed my returns for March. Yes, I'm a retiree, but I also have other sources of income. So I need to go ahead to file it. So for individuals who are in unemployment, the employers will file their returns for them by January. That is deducted as source. But on individual basis, they have it as 31st March to do that. If you are a company, if you're a new company, you have 18 months from date of incorporation until your year end, or 6 months after your year end. If you are an old company, you have 6 months after your year end. And the company, if you are small, you are taxed at 0 rate by NTA Act. But that does not exempt you from filing returns, because if you do not file your returns, the tax relevant tax authority will not know where you belong. It is your returns that will enable the relevant tax authority to know that your turnover is below the threshold, or that you are even exempted. That is for company income tax. Now, for non-residents is defined as those who earn derived income from Nigeria, but they are not based here, and they are also not incorporated here. The profit they make from Nigeria is also liable to tax. Then, apart from either company or individual filing returns, there are other returns that are filed relating to withholding tax, VAT, all these transactional taxes. There are obligations to file within 21 days. And apart from that, for oil and gas, we have the upstream and we have downstream. For the upstream, they have to file estimated returns. They also have to file actual returns when the year ends. So there are obligations to file these returns. And when you do it seamlessly, believe in me, compliance cost comes down. There is a lot of advantages. There are no enforcements. Your audit will be seamless. At times, the relevant tax authority may not even mark you, may not profile you to be a high-risk taxpayer. So when you file your returns, whether at the state and the federal, you find out that you can go to sleep, and the tax authority is not interested on those who voluntarily comply, because there are thousands and one who are hiding. So they deploy their machinery. In one of your questions, you were asking my friend and brother from FRS, how do you know about this? Banks report on transactions of individuals and companies. And the NTA provides that if you're an individual and you transact 50 million, the bank will report to relevant tax authority. If you're a company, 250 million. Apart from that, a chairman of a relevant tax authority, like my Kango is now, can write to any bank and request that they supply him with Mr. Ohagwa, either by his lifestyle or the way they perceive that, he's not even in the tax net, or his filings are irregular. They can write to the bank and the bank will honor it. And the control there is that it may be below the threshold, but the executive chairman needs to sign. So when you voluntarily comply, there's no need deploying all these extra measures against you. But when you do not voluntarily comply, then you are inviting a situation whereby it will not be very, very favorable. I think, let me stop here for now.
Thank you, Mr. Innocent, but we would love you to adjust your camera a bit so we'll see you fully. You're a bit down there when we get back to you. Gentlemen, that is another angle he has brought. Like I said, the reason for Tuesday Live tonight, if you are just joining us, we are taking a look at tax filing in Nigeria, prospects and concerns. We'll get to the rudiments, but you know, we need to get to this nitty-gritty. Let me stay on the acting chairman, FCT IRS. I see you from the eye of representing the entire states of the Federation, because you are part of this value chain. Now, the tax net is so huge in Nigeria now from the reforms, and we want every Nigerian to understand and be at speed with the National Revenue Service and other regulators within that sector like you. Now, what is the faith of that village woman, that village man, who is not literate, who cannot write? How will such a person make returns?
Okay, so you've asked a very good question. I would like to go back to the whole focus of these fiscal reforms, as it were. When the President, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was sworn into office in May 2023, he did make the statement that he was going to ensure fiscal reforms, and he made a famous statement that he didn't want to tax the seeds, but rather the fruits, meaning that the whole essence of, at least for his regime, taxation, is to ensure that the economy is buoyant, it is built, and it is generating, the kind of returns for individuals who can then pay their taxes to government. And the reason why I'm answering from this perspective is because when you allude to the woman in the village, the first thing you have to ask is that woman in the village, the illiterate woman or man, as it were, is he engaged in economic activity? Does he have income, as it were? If he or she then has income, one of the mechanisms in the law, especially for a state internal revenue service, is taxpayer education and taxpayer enlightenment. Now, a lot of people have said, how do you expect an illiterate person to file returns? The question is, how do you expect an illiterate person to go to the market and know the difference between 500 naira and 1,000 naira? How does an illiterate person know the cost of a mudu of rice, or the cost of 1 kilo of croaker or Titus fish? The point is that sometimes, again, and I don't mean this as a throwback to you, but when we use the word illiterate, I think sometimes we use it in a manner that suggests the average Nigerian actually is financially literate. So that woman that you see in the village, she does have one small book. She knows if she's selling akara, if she's selling pap, she has one book where she knows what she has bought from the big market and what she has sold on market day. But we as tax authorities, our focus is not really the low-income earners. So let me put it that way. And even in these tax laws, you will see one of the things that was done was to first and foremost exempt the lowest of the income earners from taxation, or at least from paying income taxes. So for the individuals, you can see the threshold was moved up from, in the previous regime, from 300,000 to 800,000 naira annual income. That is after you have even taken all the statutory deductions, as it were, your NHF, your NHIS, your pension deductions, if you're in employment, then your rent relief and all of that. Then we've said, look, if you don't earn up to this income, look, go home and rest. For the businesses, we have said, if you're incorporated, you're a limited liability company, and your turnover is less than 100 million, then you do not have to pay tax. So the focus really is not the woman in the village. But to answer your question, if indeed that woman in the village, assuming she has such an income, the tax authorities have an obligation towards her to educate her and even to assist her. There are so many things that have been done in the law. There's something which I hope we'll discuss later on, created in the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Act, which is the Office of the Tax Ombud. I think, and I'm saying this because I'm in government, I think that for me, that particular creation is one that I thought Nigerians would have been hailing by now. Because what the government did, or what the persons who drafted the laws did was to create an office, independent office. In fact, the law says that that person is an independent and impartial arbiter between the tax authorities and their taxpayers. So I believe one of the functions of the tax ombudsman, if you ask me, will also be how to assist persons within the tax net who may not have the resources, collaborate with the Internal Revenue Services, collaborate with the Joint Revenue Board, and of course the Joint Revenue Board is doing a lot already in that regard to ensure that we're able to assist everybody to comply, whether you have income that is taxable or not. At the end of the day, I think the focus for every one of us should be, how can I as a citizen, whether illiterate, literate, PhD like my good friend here, how can I contribute to the development of my country, Nigeria?
Thank you so much. Our guest, Vaz Innocent, said, I may not be liable to pay tax, but I may be liable to file. I'll come back to you on that. Let me come to Honorable. Honorable, from what we have seen, and leaning from our guest Vaz Zone, where we are now is the stage of advocacy, advocacy, advocacy. I'm imagining if from the Green Chamber, all House of Reps members, maybe during recess, if they don't have a working recess, and all the senators find themselves at the political ward and they carry this message, I can imagine the kind of advocacy we'll have, because this whole thing, as novel as it is, if Nigerians are not properly sensitized about it, what's your take?
Well, first, the government has a structure where these orientations can be done. We have a National Orientation Agency that has the mandate clearly to educate the people of Nigeria on how best tax laws can be implemented. Beyond that too, the Joint Revenue Board has that obligation too, because it trickles down even to the local government areas, the states, and then the Federation and the FCT. So it's basically not necessarily about members of the House of Reps, senators. Of course, the bulk of our job is to make the law, which we have done.
Why I ask this is, there's a tendency, if Femi has come to talk to us in a particular location, Ango has done same, and they walk away, people will capitalize on the vulnerability of these persons. And I can, Nigerians are very, very smart. They are going to look at gaps within this whole new move and start extorting money from people. I imagine a smart guy going to a particular community, say, I'm an agent. And you can imagine how people will queue, and you may collect, as you say, look, 1,000. And within one space, 2,000 persons paying 1,000 every month, and you tell them, I want to go and clear your tax. This awareness was not there, but it's coming. So what I'm saying is that, what role should you at your level and your colleagues play in this? Because you are the people.
Yeah.
You represent us, just like you are representing Ikodekpene, Esenudum, Oborakara. We have so many. I come from Abiyaka. Somebody represents me. Somebody represents all of us. What can your members do to take this message across the length and breadth of the country?
Well, our members are doing a lot already. But the point to be made is that every Nigerian must first accept the obligation to pay tax. It is a thing of interest to build the economy of the country. So I do not want us to appropriate to a particular arm of government the obligation of giving orientations to people to pay tax. It is our business. It is the business of the media houses. NTA is spread across the entire country. We should create programs that can give orientations to the rural people. Beyond that, the National Orientation Agency should do so. See, these things are categorized.
So if somebody, for instance, if you arrive your community, just get home, somebody comes to you and says, Honorable, some people came from Abuja or from Uyo to ask us to file tax. Please educate us. Will you say you won't do it?
Of course, I have first and foremost a duty to my community people to engage them during town hall meetings, and if that comes up, why not? I'm first a Nigerian before I'm a legislator. So it is clearly that we have a collective duty. It's a conscious collective thing that everybody must have that interest in the country to give orientations to people, particularly those in the rural communities, on the need to pay tax so that government can fund its budgets, can fund development, and can expand the coast in the interest of the people. Okay. So it is our collective duty. It's not necessarily about legislators. Okay. You see, we have, I'm sorry, I must say this, the legislature or the parliament seems to be the most, troubled arm of government.
Very closest to the people.
Because everybody feels parliament should do this, parliament should do that. Even in the course of our conversation, people are saying, if I don't have a road, I will hold
so that you speak on my behalf.
As though that's within the purview. It is not in the mandate, it's not the mandate of the parliament to build roads. It's the business of the executive. But the point here is, if we don't pay taxes, how would the executive have the resources to meet the needs of the people or to do the business on social contract? Okay. So that's the point. So it's our business collectively.
Okay. Let's go forward.
More so your business.
Absolutely. And that's what we are doing here.
As a media practitioner.
Let me go to Honorable Emmanuel Bassi Osman. Can you just break down this again? I may not be liable to pay tax, but I'm liable to file my earnings.
Yes, I think
let's break it down.
It has been overflocked, but we can add more.
No,
because
at times you have flocked things for people to get the message.
Yes, thank you so much. The most important thing is, if at the end of the year, you are expected to submit and file your returns. Now, whether you have the income is taxable or not, you are expected to file. And filing it, in good time, within the stipulated time in accordance with the Act, when you filed it, it gives an opportunity for them to check, and then off your head is more important. But if they comes to you without filing it, refusing to file is already breaking the law. Either the individual or maybe the employer on behalf of the employees, or you as an individual or the company. So it's important for small businesses, whether you are paying tax, whether the income is small or big, just keep your record and file it within the time, then you will not break the law. Let me also just add from what you just said about this. As a Nigerians, it's very important for us to know what is very important, and then what we also take as a priority. It's very, very important. The Act has come out with a clear structure and spelled out the processes on how to achieve this. Now, it's not just one day that everybody will be aware. Even the people in the urban area or the educated people, so many people, there are a lot of confusion around it because Nigerians, most of us, so many people don't read. Now, but in the process of this implementation, let's have faith that first it will work. When we have that faith that first it will work, we educate. There is this thing that consciousness is a vehicle for every development. How do you start? You start with the immediate environment. First, do it. Then we know that out of 200 and something Nigerians, one person has already done. Then your immediate people around, maybe your employees or employer, people around you, your household, if they've done it, ensure that they do it. Then you now extend it. And then there are things also, some of these things are because they are very important. It's important we put them also in our curriculum. For example, the National Orientation Agency, as Honorable is saying, how many people even know their office? How many platforms do they have in educating people? As a matter of fact, the whole budget for Ministry of Information, including them, how much? Look at it, almost the least, talk less of even the national orientation. So it's something must be collective, not just one. Chairman was talking about financial inclusion, that even the informal sector. One of the key things we've drive in the past is financial inclusion. Now, there's no way we have all this mobile money. You can't tell me the person in that village today do not have a phone. or doesn't do transaction via phone. You understand? So all these are areas that can be capitalized, and people can use it to also pay the tax. People can use it to get educated, get information, to be more knowledgeable about this particular concept. But all of us as a nation, I mean, we must be serious about it and say, okay, this will work. But rather than looking at it as maybe if FRS has dropped letter, it's like the police has come. Do this way, or possibly somebody is knocking and you see them and said, what is the government? No, most of the time we ask what government is doing. Why should I pay tax when maybe I don't have a road? Why should I pay tax when government is not giving me light? You ask questions. But of course, did you ask your own question? What are you contributing? And one of them is be a responsible citizen. When we're in primary and secondary school, in what we call the subject citizenship, they taught us to be responsible. And when we are responsible, it helps us to take responsibility, because responsibility has two words: respond to abilities. You are created with ability in you. You are created with potential in you. Now, when you respond to them, you become responsible. But if you refuse to respond, you become what? Irresponsible, though I didn't say it. Now, a lot of us has to be responsible citizen to be able to make demand of the government. For example, when somebody is saying, they now check, you are not even paying your tax, you ought to be in jail. There's no employment, you have not paid your tax, you ought not to be employed. So there are so many things like that. Now, I want us to leave the thing like Joy, maybe you do for a church or a mosque, you give your tithe, you pay your offering, you don't bother what they do with it, because you have done your own part. Whatever they do, that is their own distance. The same thing if you do it, you can make demand of government, because we can ask questions. It's not like that one. That one will do it, nobody is. But that of government, you have not even done it, you do not want to do it, maybe because there's no instant benefit. But it's important, government itself, and all agencies, either financial institutions, agencies, we should take it collectively. Take this even to schools. Let even the coming of generation, let them know the reason why they should pay tax.
So you now agree with me where you thought we were overflogging it. You can hear your message now. I can imagine that young boy watching the program, that elderly woman listening to you now, how you have touched their conscience, that you must reorientate yourself towards reinforcing that tax culture in you, wherever you find yourself. If you are just joining us tonight, we are taking a look at tax filing in Nigeria, prospects and concerns. When we come back after the break and one report, we shall start with our guest who is joining us via Zoom, and we shall be going to the nitty-gritty of the prospects, the concerns, and the way forward. So we'll take this report from Kano. After the report from Kano, we'll take a break and we'll come back on the program. Stay with us.
Is aimed at expanding the nation's revenue base and improving compliance among individuals and businesses. Central to the reform is the tax identification number, TIN, a unique number required for tax registration. Individuals and businesses are expected to obtain a TIN and provide details of income from sources such as salaries, businesses, or investments, including records for allowable deductions.
The tax system is becoming challenging for us. Getting a TIN is difficult and it is affecting our profits.
However, in Kano, one of Nigeria's largest commercial hubs, awareness of this requirement appears limited. Inside the city's busy markets, traders negotiate prices and attend to customers as they have done for decades.
Yes, I've heard about TIN.
Okay, what is TIN?
TIN, I think it's something tax, something about tax. Yes.
Okay,
but I've not registered the TIN up to now.
Kano is among the states that has a lot of individual taxpayers and organizations, but the problem we are facing now, apart from registration of tax identification number, most of our taxpayers, they are not aware.
Preliminary findings indicate that only about 5% of traders surveyed possess a tax identification number.
Currently, what we are doing is to identify each trader, each marketer each petty trader within the market and individual traders within the market using their national identity number and link it to the local tax identity number that we have.
And for Nigeria's tax reform to succeed, experts say awareness among traders in major commercial centers like Kano will be key to bring in more business.
Thanks for staying tuned. And the focus tonight is tax filing in Nigeria, prospects and concerns. Let's go to Lagos. Our guest who joined us via Zoom, who is incidentally the president and chairman of Council for the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Innocent Chinyere Ohawa. Innocent, one of the major concerns about all this is weak enforcement mechanisms. How can we reject this?
Taking up on this, I want to add something on the previous discussion before we went on break on what government is doing or why must we pay tax. We should not, a lot have been said about that, and many people make that comment without evaluating their environment, even within the country. For instance, who pays the military? Who pays the police? Who pays the difference between King's College, Lagos, or University of Lagos and Bako University or all the private schools? It's taxpayers' money. My son went to King's College, and I can say that the school fees I was paying then, when I compare with the ones who were in private school, it was more than 300%. So that's a lot that tax payment does for the country. It's not only road. Road is not the only facility that responsibility the government have. Then let me go to my question on the enforcement. Yes, the preoccupation of every relevant tax authority is voluntary compliance, because when you voluntarily comply, there'll be no need for enforcement, because enforcement could be costly, could be time consuming, and it could also, be misinterpreted. At times, someone who is guilty will play up a political card because of enforcement. So, enforcement mechanism, they are in the law, but relevant tax authority only goes to that as the last resort when all efforts have been done. We have different category of taxpayers. We have those who will willingly comply. There are those who are not complying because they don't understand the law. They need it to be spoken to. And once you explain, they will pay. We have the third category that are not willing to pay, except they are enforced. So that is why provisions of enforcement are in the integral part of the tax law, so that when all efforts have been made to encourage voluntary compliance, which is cheaper, which is less costly, which is more helpful for both the taxpayer and the revenue authority. If you are a voluntary complier, you find out that the issues you undergo in even getting your tax clearance. If you are not being compliant, you cannot get your tax clearance. You will be a subject of audit, you will be a subject of investigation, you will be a subject of, financial crime, because tax evasion is a predicate crime for money laundering. When you are not paying your taxes as and when due, that is financial crime. And as such, it can be seen along that line. So the enforcement measures are there, but relevant tax authorities exercises caution. All the penalties that are in the tax law, the essence is put there not as the first line method of operation. It is there to accommodate the category of taxpayers that are not willing to comply. One of the good things this tax law have done is that the type of awareness it has raised, even in churches, in mosques, in communities, in estates, in everywhere, people are asking questions, people want to know, people want to comply. So under this situation, you will not be talking about enforcement. You will talk on how you can render self-service, how you can create tax clinic, how you can create help desk that will assist citizens to comply, especially at the subnationals. They need a lot of support to ensure that Nigerians are not difficult people. They are very nice people, but we need to support them and ensure that enforcement only comes in when all steps have been taken and it is failed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Honorable, let me come to you. You just talked about the weak enforcement mechanism. Let's look at the concern of low tax compliance. For those who are already looking at how do I beat the system so that Femi will not see? How do I beat the system so that Ango will not see?
Well, my concern basically has been that of most Nigerians. A typical Nigerian mind or mindset is configured to think of how to evade payment of tax rather than how to comply with the provisions of the law. And so I see it as a tall order for the tax masters and those with the obligation to make the assessments and collect taxes on behalf of the Federation. And again, the major burden on the other side, on the flip side for the tax masters, that's the Nigerian Revenue Service, is also how to ensure that tax collected is remitted to the coffers of the Federation. So we must look at both ends to seal the loopholes so that we stop leakages and ensure that what is also paid gets to the coffers of the Federation and can be expended in the interest of Nigerians. There is where I come from, an adage that if you don't have tax to pay, you must also have the legs to run fast or faster than the tax master. So it is a critical issue that we must look at from both ends. Are Nigerians themselves willing to be patriotic? Are they willing to comply with the provisions of the law as it is and the core provisions of the Constitution that places that obligation on every Nigerian to pay tax? And then on the other hand, we have made allusions as a panel here that when you pay tax, there is also a corresponding obligation on government, and then, of course, an entitlement on the part of the citizen to make a positive demand from government to provide services where these services are not provided when a citizen has paid tax. That's not in very absolute terms. First, you may have the local standing to ask for what is yours. You may have such entitlements, but then our constitution also limits certain aspects of challenging, certain aspects or components of challenges to government. If you look at the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy as enshrined in Chapter 2 of the Constitution, all of these are non-justiciable rights. So we still have hitches here and there that may limit the conscience of an average Nigerian who is knowledgeable of the provision of the Constitution from paying taxes. So we need to do a lot more. We need to incentivize. Of course, the law here has even given some tax holidays for low-income earners. But then we must do more in terms of orientation, in terms of implementation, in terms of assessment of compliance and all that. The burden, as we speak, is more on the tax masters, the NRS, the FCT, IRS, and those who work in the states of the Federation. And again, there is also the fear of double taxation, even when the law has done so much to curb proliferation of tax subheads. So I also hope that fraudsters will not take advantage of these loopholes or to defraud innocent Nigerians, especially those ones that are coming up with fresh companies. And again, in the tech industry, the fluidity of having to do proper assessment of what is going on is another challenge that we will have, which, of course, I do know they are on top of their game. I mean, the tax masters. The young people are very skilled. They are getting into tech, and somehow the way it works might also pose some challenges to the tax masters. So those are areas, of course, there are provisions like that in the law, but then in the implementation, we may have to do training and retraining of the tax masters so that they can contend all of these challenges. That's for me the concerns I can find.
Okay, let me take on that concern. I'll come to the two enforcers who are here with us because there's a lot. Let me take on Usman. Complexities of the tax system is another concern. Do you think by the tax reforms from March ending, all this will be whittled?
Well, I think the.
But you agree it's a concern, right?
Well,
complexities of the tax system.
I think because of the complexity, that was why I think Mr. President set up that committee to come out with to simplify the tax, and that is why there was consolidation of all those taxes we've been paying in the past, so that to be one and make it much more easier. So just as we said, let me quickly, before I added on this, the issue of enforcement and then strengthening institutions. The truth is, when we talk about tax masters, we're looking at it as like maybe personalities. But when the institutions is strengthened, and one thing is, for example, when someone very relevant is prosecuted, shamed, someone small, and there's justice and equity in handling it, the message will be clear and people will be in line. Now, the tax, anything that you have not done before, you would think is difficult. That is why I still want to emphasize that we need to create more consciousness, we need to create more awareness, not just now as, if we're saying, as I said earlier, when we see it as something that our life depends on it as a nation, because I can tell you, Great Britain today, I can say 80% of their revenue comes from tax. And the tax can be up to 30% or more. Now, it means that there are countries that don't have any other sources of revenue. Thank God Nigeria is blessed with natural resources, and we have quite huge income or revenue from other sources. But just imagine if only tax that we depend on. I don't think this laxity or this lack of seriousness that we give to this particular program, or this particular tax of taxing will be taken. Look at the few states in Nigeria that became very conscious of internally generated revenue. Till tomorrow, they stand out among other nations of state. If you look at the subnationals, I would not want to mention, but there are some that are top-notch. And if you look at their IGR, internally generated revenue,
it's important to mention.
It's up there. For example, Lagos. For example, Lagos is doing well. Kaduna, Pipop, for example, Akwa Ibom is doing well. But I can also give you one of those recent one I studied was Enugu. They brought in one young guy as the chair, and he's doing wonders internally. Now, there are a lot of other states today that can't boast of 10 billion in the whole year. Not because they are nothing to tax, but the structures are not in place. The enforcements are not in place. The beliefs are not in place. The same thing even at the federal level. If we look at that, it's only the NRS that has only the responsibility. How many of them? How many of them? And how many of them also will even be able to go out and educate people? So the National Assembly, the executive, the people generally have responsibility. And one of the major responsibilities, let's strengthen our institution. Let the institution be stronger than the people. So I will not see this man as a tax collector, but I will see him as a representative, as an agent. Now, another thing that also is there you know, they say a hungry man is a hungry man. And most of the time we justify corruption and we justify some things against government. Let me give you an example. I have some neighbors, I'm not saying my neighbor and whatever. There are some people in this country today still bypass NEPA, power. And some of us, some people around you know that this guy is bypassing.
Can I
You will not
holiday?
talk.
Let's take this caller from Abuja. Hello. It looks like we lost the call.
Hello.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Hello.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
We can hear you, sir.
Hello.
Well,
Good evening, sirs.
go ahead, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, please, my name is Anil Polycarp. I'm calling from Galadimowa village, Abuja. So I have some questions to ask. I just came back from watching, but because of this tax something I saw on the television, I decided to stay till now to maybe get one or two things right. I want to know this before now. I know there has been some kind of tax, but this new tax regime now, when is it starting? That is one. This second one is, what of the past? Are you just starting from this new one? That is the two things I want to know, so that I will know what to do about myself.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Let me leave you an angle to go take it, please.
Okay. So to answer the question, the tax regime is continual. Like government is continual, your tax is continuous. Your obligation from the past is still supposed to be met if you have not fulfilled those obligations. What we are just having in the new regime is to reform it and make it easier for you. So make compliance easy, make understanding easy, and so that's what is changing. So the obligation from the past still need to be met. It's always very important to approach your tax authority, and you can speak to them. I'm sure they will understand you and tell you the best way to go about it. So there are always ways to go about it. So I think do not think about maybe the liability, maybe getting too much. But approach the tax authority. They will always find a way to bring you into the tax net, and the easiest way. Maybe Mike will speak to.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Polycarp, thank you for calling. So, Mr. Polycarp, your tax obligations, like Femi has said, are continual. Given that you reside in Abuja, we have a dedicated office that will be able to assist you to understand better your obligations to the FCT, Internal Revenue Service, which is the tax authority that is responsible for you. So if you are not busy watching football tomorrow, you can come to my office at any time from 10 a.m. tomorrow. Our office is at number 3, Abriba Close, off Yola Street, Area 7, Garki. Or you can go to our website and look at, find the nearest office to you. But if you are minded to come, you can come to the office tomorrow. Come to the office of the executive chairman. I will direct you, I'll dedicate somebody who will assist you to ensure that you properly understand what your obligations are and you are able to comply. So I look forward to your visit tomorrow.
I think he has a second leg to his question. When is the law commencing?
Okay.
Yes, the law has commenced.
Okay, the law has commenced, actually.
Okay.
The law commenced right from the day the president signed it. However, there were 2 of the laws that were now implementation commenced from the 1st of January, 2026. So immediately, 26th of June, last year, the president signed it. So all the laws commenced. However, the Nigerian Tax Act and Nigerian Tax Administration Act, implementation were deferred till 1st of January 2026. So the law has commenced.
Where is the component of the 30th March of March?
No. 30th March is the obligation for an individual to file tax returns. It has always been in the law. So for an individual, you are expected that by the 30th of March, you should file your individual tax returns. And so you should try and
for
do same too.
2025.
For 2025, yes.
You want to say something?
No, that's what I wanted to. And you just said it because a lot of people are making that mistakes, thinking this new law by 31st of much, you have to know. As a matter of fact, it has taken effect by first, maybe, for example, you break the law, but maybe they might not even come to you till next year if you have not filed. But it's expected, for example, 2025 for you to clear it. Not just 2025, if you have a backlog of 2022, 2023, 2024, it's your responsibility to do what? To file it. I was just telling him that the new platform they create on the IRS, for example, immediately you do the remittance, after some time, it shows your remittance. We are saying, okay, what of the backlog? Can we now upload it? So that even those tax clearance I've paid the last 5 years, I can quickly go to the history and also print it. It's something that is also possible.
Let me also ask an open question here. Maybe if Chinyere also join, Innocent will take it, will go to him. Now, are there exceptions to this rule? Because I keep saying, what if, for instance, okay, the caller from Abuja, he asked the question, what by chance he did not take stock of his inflows in terms of business, if maybe he's a government worker now, and he does not know what to do? What are the exceptions? Let me also use myself. I'm supposed to file by 30th March, but I have not been able to streamline my inflows in terms of extra income. How will I be helped?
Okay, so you see, first and foremost, understand that the tax authorities or government is not out to witch hunt you. So I think the first mindset you should have is that this is not an exercise to, tax you to the last kobo, as it were. And look, taxation is also, about, it's a social science. It's about human beings, how they interact with their finances, and ultimately, of course, how they are able to account for what they earn. So there's no tax authority, and I stand to be corrected, that will say that, they are going to find every last kobo that one has earned. Even in taxation, we have what we call risk profiling. And that is why, Mr. Hagwa said something that, look, there will be a level of compliance or even lawful declaration that will occur, that even the tax authority say, look, Mr. Omini has tried. He may have one or two things here. We will help him going forward. But you see, it is important that you even make that effort. Okay. So that when I get your records, I can say, okay, yeah, this one. For example, if there are 3 inflows, 50,000 from your brother who is honorable, 50,000 no narration, then 50,000 sale of, items. And you declared the first 250,000, but the last one, I said, oh, this was last year, April. Honestly, I cannot remember where this revenue or where this particular inflow came in. The tax authority may have the discretion to look at it and say, well, we can let that go. I mean, out of 900 inflows, the man has declared 899 inflows. We might say, look, come on, the level of compliance is appreciable. But where you have 50 inflows and you declare only 2, and we come and discover that there were 48 undeclared, you're already on the
Mr. Femi also made reference to the fact that they could just look at you and assess you and imagine how you look. Let's say, let me use our tax expert on set. From his cap, the fabric, even the pen. And will he be arrested to make okay. I'm just asking.
No. So when I said that, you asked me how the tax authority will know. So there's some level of intelligence, and that's talking about intelligence. So intelligence could come is one of the way. And Mr. Agua had also spoken about the returns from the banks to also as one of the things. So when we look where there is no other information, you have not declared anything. You have not declared, and the taxman is saying, oh, you have to give it, or you are saying it's 0. Say, okay, can you provide your means of, can you provide a return? You have not provided anything. So they can also search for businesses you do.
Yes.
So those are the levels of intelligence.
Okay.
I only mentioned that as lifestyle.
Okay.
A certain person bought a house of 58 million some time ago and put it on social media. And the next thing is that taxman look at the returns. This person has only paid 50,000 naira tax. So it's an intelligence information.
So how do you get the money to buy the house?
Yeah. So taxman can probe further. So that is what that lifestyle audit does.
Have you also captured the fintechs?
Yeah.
Who are doing all sorts of giving out loans online? How are you going to track them?
So
I leave it open to the two of you.
Okay, so
before we go to Innocence in Lagos.
So like we said, business has gone from the era of brick and mortar and now in the digitalized economy. The taxman also need to digitize to be able to track such businesses. Now, so we also have digitized tax administration system now. Now, tracking, we have different levels. There is a financial transaction aspect of it, because most of the transactions are also, there's a financial transaction. There's through banks and other payment channels, which also have the obligation to report. And so all this obligation, all this reporting obligation are things that lead the taxman to most of those returns. Now, whether he does it within the country or outside the country, you can hear Mr. Agua also spoke about even non-residents doing business in Nigeria also have the obligation to file returns. So you earn income from tech companies online. They also have the obligation to file returns. And in those, their obligation, you can also match some other people's income within the country. So all this also are done with the digitized system of the tax administration to be able to get that.
Can the banks help?
Let me add,
Okay.
One of the innovations in the new tax regime is the issue of the tax ID. Now that tax ID applies to everybody, natural persons and companies, businesses. In fact, for you to operate a bank account in Nigeria today, you need a tax ID. So you see, with your tax ID, it's more like your social security number now. Yes. It is a unique identifier. It is tied to your national identity number for companies, for individuals, and it is tied to your CAC registration for companies. That tax ID ensures that we are able to identify you, and if need be, we can track your transactions. So the reality is that for somebody to be incognito or to operate below the radar going forward is going to be very difficult. But like we've said, the focus is, and the most preferred way is voluntary compliance. No tax authority wakes up in the morning and says, I want to carry policemen to this premises to go and shut it down. I want to arrest Mr. Y, or I want to send a best of judgment assessment. Look, in my practice, in my time in office as the head, of the Internal Revenue Service, we have seen persons, who have declared income to a particular level that we have said, you know what, even if this man did not declare everything, we're happy with what we've seen. I mean, we've had people in Abuja pay 90 million naira tax. We've had people who were paying prior to coming into the government of this administration. There were people who were paying 500,000 naira as monthly as annual tax. Some even 100,000. But when we came in, we began to talk to them, to explain to them, to say, look, you need to support the minister of the FCT who is doing all this work, infrastructure. You need to support Mr. President. And people have voluntarily come into our offices and paid 90 million, 30 million, 60 million. There was one particular instance when I calculated the difference between what the man had paid previously and what I think it was about 3,000%.
Wow.
Or some really crazy percentage increase.
Okay.
So it also shows, and that's why I do not agree when people sometimes say, and with all due respect, Honorable, that Nigerians have the propensity to not want to pay tax. I feel that the average Nigerian, if properly educated, if carried along, if motivated, will comply. That's my belief. And I think that if we all as institutions of government, and including the media, you're doing an excellent job by giving us this platform, can say to the average Nigerian, look, this is a journey. It is not a one-day journey. It's not a two-day journey. And it doesn't matter whether your political orientation, who you support or who you do not support. But we have a country to develop.
Excuse me.
For those of us who are in Abuja, we have a city to develop. When I leave my house in the morning and I'm driving on the road from Katampe to my office or from Lifecamp to my office, if the road is smooth, it is 3 or 6 lanes, The road does not ask you, are you APC, are you PDP? The road does not ask you, are you a Muslim or are you a Christian? In fact, the road doesn't even ask you if you have paid tax or not. It is available for you to use.
Yeah.
But you see, when you bounce on that road and you know you have paid tax, say, this is my road. I paid for this.
While you're making your submission, we had a caller. Let's take this caller. Hello.
Hello.
Go ahead, please.
Hello, good morning.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for the topic. So can you hear me?
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Please go ahead. Okay. So I wanted to get some things clear because at some point I worked at a particular company. There were tax deductions, but first of all, I didn't have the TIN, that's the tax identification number. But the company kept deducting money and all that. So I wanted to find out, is it the responsibility of the individual now to get the tax identification number and then hold the company liable, or the company can just keep taking money from individuals?
Okay.
So, Mr. Simon, it is your obligation to register for your tax identification, to obtain your tax ID. When you have done so, if you are an employee, it is also your obligation to give that to your company or to your employer. But it is also incumbent on your employer to then obtain that number from you, because at the end of the day, like you rightly said, if your employer begins or continues to deduct your taxes and there's no tax ID, then how can their employer remit it in your name? So it is important that, like I said, education is very important. As an employee, you have a duty to register for the tax ID, provide that to your employer, and then seek from your employer, sir, ma, I understand you deducted 10,000 or 15,000 from my salary last month. Please, can I see evidence that it has been remitted to the State Internal Revenue Service? And if you are not satisfied, my brother, you can come to the office. If you want to come, if you don't want to be, maybe report to your employer, you can write an anonymous letter or inquiry and say, you can even say, assuming somebody works with company AYZ, and company AYZ has deducted, and please, what should the person do? So, but, like I said, this is also citizenship responsibility.
Yeah. Yes, because the reason why I'm asking is, from all I'm listening to, you're obliged to still come back and check on my own personal records and then see if I am short.
Absolutely. So you see why it is also important that your employer remits what has been deducted is that at the end of the year, there's some of the statutory deductions in the law. You may not be able to take them at the time when your tax is being computed. For example, life insurance. If you have paid life insurance, you may not pay in January. You may maybe your premium is due in November. Meanwhile, your employer will not have computed in terms of what they are going to deduct from your taxes. They will not have reckoned with the life insurance, but you will now claim the life insurance and say, look, I've paid. Or you took a loan, interest on owner-occupier residence. For example, you took that loan, and the interest on that loan, you are living in your house, you took a loan, you are paying for the house. The interest is, deductible. So your employer will also not have that information or record. So those are some of the things. Even the rent relief. Recently, some employers have written to me to say, look, some people have made claims. Some people's rent is going to be due in February, in October or in November. Of course, what the law says is that you provide the necessary information, the rent agreement, the name of the landlord, etc. So there are also obligations on the employee. There's certain information that only the employee will be able to provide. But that is why you must track and confirm that your employer is properly remitting your taxes, so that when you now are ready to file your March filing, you have all this information, you can declare it, salary, allowances, extra income, and then your reliefs. The other things like the rent, I said, the life insurance and all of that. So, Mr. Simon, please, politely go and confirm from your employer. Don't fight them, but just ask them. And if you think they are not doing the right thing, you can first educate them. If they refuse to comply, you can quietly slip us a note and let us know. We'll come. We'll not fight them. We'll not shut down your company. You will continue to work there, but we'll ask them to do the right thing so that the taxes you have been paid can be properly credited to you. You can get your tax clearance certificate if you need to do any transaction, if you need to go for a visa interview, if you need to process a land allocation, you have your tax clearance, and you can hang it up in your parlor and show your children that you are.
Thank you so much.
Nigerian. Yes.
When we come back from Enugu, we'll be going straight to Lagos on the way forward. Let's take this report from Enugu.
Tax filing is the mandatory process of submitting financial information, including income, deductions, and credits to government tax authorities, such as the Federal Inland Revenue Service and State Revenue Services. It allows authority to verify tax compliance and calculate accurate tax liability. In Enugu State, mixed reactions have continued to trail this policy, as some residents admit their knowledge of tax filing, while others are yet to come to terms with the new development.
People are not actually complying. For people to start with, tax filing has to do with presenting your financial background and your expenses to the federal government, for them to know your financial status to start with, to know your tax liability, to know how to tax you, to know when you are tax exempted, and maybe possibly when you are now due for taxing.
From the FIRS we used to have, but right now it is the NIRS. So you identify the tax authority first. Then after that, you go to their portal and download the relevant tax information, fill it and upload it. And I think with that, you're almost 80% done with the processes.
For this financial analyst, late filing or failure to file attracts fines ranging from 25,000 to 1 million naira for individuals and companies, respectively.
Once you don't give the accurate information pertaining to your finances and filing as at when due, there is penalty in the sense that what you're meant to pay will now be on the high side. So it's advisable that individuals, per se, have to give their records on time.
If people were aware of these penalties or the processes of filing their tax, I think all these penalties are something we can walk over, because the current tax laws has made the system so simple that anybody who cares, anybody who wants to obey the law, who wants to be on the side of the law, who wants to be a good citizen, should always not find it very difficult to file his tax.
Effective communications and awareness campaign no doubt remain the key for appreciable compliance of tax filing, especially at the grassroots.
Tax filing in Nigeria, prospects and concerns was the focus of the program tonight, and our phone lines are still open. But before then, let's go to Lagos, where we have the President and Chairman of Council for the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Innocent Ohagwa, join us from via Zoom. Mr. Innocent, back to you, just saying, I get concerned when they say one of the way forwards is simplifying the tax structure and harmonizing multiple taxation. How will that work, please?
Yes, thank you very much. I will confirm that that has already been done. At the federal level, it has been done seamlessly. At the subnational Joint Revenue Board, I'm aware that have harmonized over 63 different types of levies into 9 single-digit. Our chairman there, Mr. Ango, can confirm. So at the state level, these taxes and levies have been harmonized to 9 and given to the various state House of Assembly to domesticate. And as a last count, up to 15 to 16 of the states have approved that harmonization. And when all the states pass it, you will find out that the issue of multiple taxation will be a thing of the past. Apart from that, we should also bear in mind that these laws are just being implemented and we need to be patient. That is why I want to use this opportunity to appeal to the nation so that the relevant tax authorities should also think giving parole to taxpayers who have issues. All the places have been going for advocacy, giving lectures. Part of the fears is that, since I'm not in the tax net, since 5 years I've not been paying, if I present myself now, won't they do me this? I even encourage them. I say, look, go. If you confess, they will receive you well, and your penalty, like the chairman have said, will not be excessive. But if government can come out today and say, okay, those who are not in the tax net, those who are not compliant, can come out. Whatever your sins, we can forgive you 50%. We can forgive you the interest and penalty. We can, a scheme that will encourage those who are not already there to come out. And that will help both at the state level and at the federal level. All the places have given lectures on this tax reform. The fears, even those who confess to me, is that if they come out now, all the laws will be open for them, and that will be for a kid. I said, no, it doesn't work that way. When you walk to a tax office by yourself, your sins will not be visited in the same way if a tax person catches you. So I want to use this as a medium to appeal to relevant tax authorities to design a scheme whereby those who are not already in the tax net or who are deficient in compliance to come and regularize with promises on what should be extended to them, and that will enable them to key into the new tax law. And at the end of the day, the number of the tax base will increase, we will collect more, we will take less loan, we will not print Naira notes, and taxes will take care of all these things. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Now let me come to Osman. Osman, the other way forward I follow, it says it will improve transparency and accountability in public spending. How?
Well, when you contribute to something, your mind will be there. And then two, when people become faithful in doing their own part, it now will go back to the government to ensure that also before, for example, they will announce government will announce budget. Very few people track budget. Very few people track revenue of governance. But today, the enlightenment is there. So, for example, as a taxpayer, I'm concerned with government spending. I'm concerned with government revenue. So I ask questions. And as I said, up to now, the reason why some people are still having some doubt in payment of their tax is because they don't believe in government that much. So government still have responsibility. As Chairman rightly said, he was even saying, come to my office. This is taking responsibility. And if government keep enlightening and saying, okay, this is what we're doing with the money, make it transparent, people will be willing. We see, for example, a lot of these taxes, I'm going to construct this road, and I deduct from my tax. And it's working for the corporates. Individuals want to see. So it's important for the tax administration, the tax administrators, the government itself, let them make it open. Not just announce figure, we collect so. Let it be open, and this is how it's being spent. And also I want to tell, majority of government spending also, they're in public domain. People should go and pick those documents, go through those details, and then have a clearer understanding about it. But let me say this also, for every taxpayer, it's important for you to keep your record from day one, not just account statement. If they go there, they will look at turnover. My friend will say, you have turnover of this. So it's assumed it's an income. Not all turnovers are income.
Okay. Thank you so much. Chairman, let me educate us on the way forward that speaks to expanding digital tax filing system nationwide.
Okay.
I know why I asked you this.
Yes. So the reality is that I think over the last decade or so, most revenue authorities have significantly invested in technology systems. And the reason is simple. The world is moving on. Manual filings, manual systems are being left behind. We're moving into the world of AI and, data mining and all of that. Someone can sit down with a system and profile you and tell you that, look, based on one index that I have about you, I can, give or take, profile you and say this is about what I think your income will be. This goes back to the question as to how does government, or how do revenue authorities determine what a person's income is. You flew to the UK for summer. How much is the ticket on British Airways, or even if it is Air Peace that is cheaper? We have an idea. Averagely, even if you went and stayed in one village in the UK, you paid £50 a night. How much is £50 a night? Who can extrapolate? Your children go to Premier International or any other primary school in Abuja. We have an idea of what the school fees are. Then we saw you driving a Jeep, so we can extrapolate. But the reality is that what digital systems will ultimately do, both for the government, as revenue authorities, and the taxpayers, is that it will create ease of compliance.
Yeah.
You see, I bought a house about maybe 17 years ago. And then, I wanted to do something with the house today. Then the person I sent to the location then got there and they said I should bring the receipt of payments. I told them I don't have it. If it was a digital payment, if I had done this thing online or whatever it is, I just go back, pull it up, and the information is there. So that is one of the major benefits, that ease of compliance. You have integrity of records. You have data that you can use. Now, let me just go back to something. I think this is important because going back to that, your old woman in the village.
Yes.
You see, there's also something
in a few seconds.
There's something which government has also done for people like that. We've introduced what is called the presumptive tax regime. This is something that has been in the pipeline for over maybe close to 2 decades in Nigeria. Last week, the Minister of Finance and the Coordinating Minister for the Economy signed the presumptive tax regulations into law. As we speak today, the State Internal Revenue Services have been given leeway, legal backing, to be able to say, okay, if you cannot tell us exactly with exactitude what you earn, either by reason of lack of records or by the fact that you are operating in the informal sector, we have not been able to bring you into the financial system properly, we will now say, okay, this is the presumptive tax for you. Of course, the ultimate goal is to ensure that even persons outside the tax net, those in the informal sector, we can still bring them in. But for now, the government has ingeniously, I would say, created that presumptive tax mechanism so that even persons who do not have all their records can still comply based on an assessment that the government makes and says, within this sector, if you're a mechanic, if you're an artisan, if you're a bricklayer, this is what I think bricklayers earn in Lagos, this is what I think a bricklayer earns in Kano, and then we can assess you to tax on that basis.
And before we go to our father, Femi, let's speak to, in a few words, the way forward of strengthening enforcement against tax evasion.
Okay, well, in fact, the way forward right now is what we call cooperative compliance, which means the tax authority, we're not so much about enforcement. So you heard we've not spoken about penalties. There are penalties for failing to comply. However, I need to first know why are you not complying? So I start with advocacy, I start with knowing how your business is. Okay, that is where I will ask for audits. Then, okay, I want to know why are you not complying? So that is the first step. It's only like I said, we now look at those who are recalcitrant, who have refused to comply. Those are the ones that enforcement are meant for. Now, how do we enforce? There are measures that are in place, like the tax reforms we have now. is mostly self-regulating. Now, we are introducing what we call the e-invoicing system, which means that every business must connect to the e-invoicing system. It means that all the transactions they do, government have visibility to it, so it's easy to enforce and to track income. Also, businesses will now have to monitor themselves. Like now, for companies, it's even an offense for a company to do business with another person who has no tax ID.
Yeah.
So it means you want to business regulate each other. In fact, aside that, if you do business if you give a contract to someone who does not have a tax ID, it's 5 million naira fine. So you rather want to stay compliant. So if you're staying compliant, you ensure that all your vendors are. So these are some of the self-regulatory to ensure compliance. So these are subtle way of enforcing the tax provisions to ensure that every Nigerian pay their own fair share of taxes, so that you don't, because if I'm paying tax and I want to do business with you, I should ensure you pay. That is what equity means.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
NT's policy is, tonight we had a regulator in Lagos. We have an enforcer, we had an enforcer, we have a businessman. We must have the Nigerians here. These are the Nigerians. Honorable, what last word do you have for Nigerians regarding this?
It's clear to encourage Nigerians to pay tax and to encourage the tax masters to be transparent so that our country can fare better. Simple and short.
Thank you so much. Well, gentlemen, I must say we have had it very, very robust. Let me begin from Lagos. Innocent Chinyere, it was nice having you on the program tonight. And the chairman, FCTRS, Michael Angu, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Emmanuel Basi Osman, doctor, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Femi Olarinde, SA to the Executive Chairman of NRS. It was nice having you on the program. And our member representing Ikodek Bene is Senu Dim, Oboda Kara Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives, and also a member of the House of Reps Finance Committee. Thanks so much for being on the program.
Thank you so much.
It's all about, and also all the callers who made in and those who sent in messages. It was nice having you on the program. It's all about reorienting your mind. Always make time to be our guest, our viewer on Tuesday Live. On behalf of all of us, thanks for watching.